Welcome to Insight Builder channel, large language model automators, Python experts, and my dear friends. Visualizing the communication between assistant agent and user proxy agent. In this video, we are going to dive into the world of agents. The world of agents where 4 different agents are going to work together to get one task completed. That task will be completed automatically with the help of OpenAI large language models like GPT3.5 or GPT4 models. Before we dive into the details, the agent that we are going to talk today is a Python class that is written inside the Autogen library. I will also go through the basics of the agents right now. So there are 2 different agents we will be discussing today. One is assistant agent and another is user proxy agent. Assistant agent is a type of agent which can communicate with the large language models like GPT3.5 Turbo and above or GPT4, while the user proxy agent is used for communicating with the human user like you and me. The user proxy agent, which is one of the most important agent that we need to understand. That's why I'm going to discuss that first. User proxy agent can execute code. It can get the input from the human. It can also work automatically to send replies to the large language models. How it can do this? It can do this by connecting with the assistant agent. Assistant agent are opposite to user proxy agent. Assistant agent can connect with large language models. It can get the replies that is generated by the large language models. However, assistant agents cannot get the human input. It cannot execute code. The reason why I'm trying to provide the basics of the agents first is, if you think about the design of the various classes like assistant agent or user proxy agent, these are all well thought design which takes care of the behavior that is required or the problem that it solves. So the behavior of the assistant agent is to solve complex tasks. And how does it do that? It is able to do that because the default system message prompt has been designed in such a way that it can get the LLM to solve the task that is given to the assistant agent because it's connected to the LLM. If you go to the user proxy agent, you will clearly see that the LLM config itself is turned to false, meaning it cannot connect with the large language models at all. So now you have some basic idea about the user proxy agent and the assistant agent. You have seen that. What we are going to do now is we are going to jump into the Jupyter notebook. This particular notebook is already committed to the Autogen forked repo. The repo that I have forked it on my GitHub account. Code that you're going to see here is already updated there. Our primary discussion here will be to see how the assistant agents are initiated. Here, the first planner. So here is a assistant agent that I have instantiated. The assistant agent has got a name. It has got an LLM config. You can see the config here, and it has got a system message. So the system message is something that I will discuss in a couple of minutes. Here, this is how the assistant agents are instantiated. This is one example that we will be using. This planner object will be using in our code in a couple of minutes. In order for this LLM config to work, you need to provide the config list. The config list configuration, you can see it here. I'm not diving into the config list detail in this video. In the earlier video that I have discussed, I have given a full detail about how this config list works. I'll be using the config list from .env option because it is pretty straightforward and you don't need to do a lot of work. All you need to do is create a .env file, and inside the env file you can start populating the keys. That is all that you need to do. Moving down a bit, here we will be using another one assistant agent that we are creating, but this assistant agent has detailed configuration of the large language model. That is the temperature, the timeout limit, the catch seed, the config list that you saw at the top. If you see, the config list that I'm using uses the model GPT 3.5 Turbo. Yes, you can use GPT 3.5 Turbo to work with the agents, but it is not going to be really good. GPT 3.5 Turbo may not be sufficient, but for understanding how the agents are working and how they are interacting, GPT 3.5 Turbo is a cheap model that you can use to understand things better. You can already see that the assistant config can also configure the functions here. This is the function calls that we can give it to the OpenAI models, OpenAI ChatGPT models, the name, Ask Planner, all these things I will be explaining in detail in a couple of minutes, but this is the configuration for another assistant agent. And here you will see that I'm using that assistant config as well as the name to create another one assistant. So we have seen that how we can create the assistant agent. Next, we are going to look at how to create the UserProxy agent. So let us go back to the code. If I scroll up again, you'll see that there is a object called as planner user. This planner user is a UserProxy agent object, which again has a name, and it has a max consecutive auto reply of 0, meaning that it cannot actually create any kind of auto reply. It's as simple as that. And this particular planner user does not ask for any human input at all. So what this UserProxy agent does is it initiates the conversation, gets the reply, and then stops. That is what this particular UserProxy agent does. I'll be showing you an example in a couple of minutes. Let me complete the introduction first. Next, what you're doing is, if you scroll down, there will be one more UserProxy agent that we are creating. I have a couple of more UserProxy agents. I will come to that in next. This UserProxy agent has little more involved parameters. So there is human input mode terminate, max consecutive reply of 3. So that means it can do a automatic reply for 3 times, and it can do code execution using this work directory called as planning, and it has a function mapped to it, and the function name is Ask Planner, and the Python function that it is referring to is Ask Planner. Here, the same function that you saw at the top, this Ask Planner function. So it has been referenced at the top. Apart from this, let me also show you a couple of more examples of the UserProxy agent creation and their examples. Proxy with One AutoReply. This UserProxy agent object has a name One AutoReply, and it can do a maximum consecutive auto reply of 1 time, and it cannot take human input at all. It is given never. The chat is initiated using the initiate chat method, and the recipient is the planner. This particular planner is the assistant agent that we created a couple of minutes back. I explained that this is assistant agent, and this assistant agent can provide plans, it can check and analyze the plans. However, it cannot write concrete code, or it cannot do code execution. So this particular UserProxy agent is going to communicate with that planner, and it is going to ask how to connect with AWS instance running at such and such IP address. Once this chat gets initiated, the UserProxy agent, that is Proxy with One AutoReply, sends the message. The planner responds. The planner responds with the plan. It gives the various steps that you need to do. The steps are almost perfect, no doubt about that. After that steps are provided, it also tells that if the connection is successful, you should be able to execute the commands remotely. If not, if there is error, it is asking to reply back. Once this step is completed, it is waiting for the auto reply to come from the UserProxy agent. In this case, in case of this kind of a plan, there is no any code. It cannot execute. The UserProxy agent cannot execute anything. And moreover, we have told to the UserProxy agent that it cannot take human input at all. So there is no way that it can create a reply, correct? So the reply is empty. Then what the planner does, it actually again replies that the same answer. It again replies it, but with little modification. and if there is any initial error, check if the AWS credentials are correct, and then what happens, the conversation abruptly stops. So this is how the max consecutive auto reply of 1 works. If you see that if I say that there is going to be human input mode always, there is maximum auto reply of 1 and there is a human reply option also. I am asking that we need to connect via SSH to machine on LAN. Then what happens is that we give the message to the planner responds, it gives the various steps, and then here we can actually give the input. So here the human reply, I am getting the error, the IP is not found. So this is the reply that I gave. In case of VS Code or in case of the Jupyter Notebook, you will get the input request either in the cell bottom or you will get it in this location. So either place you will get the input request. Once I give the input, then again it will work on this input, and then if you are getting an error that IP is not found, so you see that it has read the error, and then it provides further updates. After that, the conversation ends. So this is how the user proxy agent works. And also through this process, you also understood how the assistant agent works. So in order to connect with the assistant agent, it's like directly, sending a ChatGPT message in the UI. If you go to ChatGPT UI in your browser and if you type something, you are actually inputting the request to the ChatGPT model, right? The same thing, but here the user proxy agent is doing it for us, and it is doing it automatically. You are only giving it the single task that you are doing, and internally there is a logic to do the auto replies. And also if you want to modify the flow of the chat conversation, then also you can do it through human reply. What happens in case of solving the task is, the idea that this particular video will discuss is that there are two pairs, agent pairs. There is agent pair 1, which gets the user input for the task, and there is agent pair 2, which takes care of controlling, providing suggestion for the agent pair 1, how it is being done. What happens is, the input message or the task is given to the user proxy agent, and the user proxy agent sends the request to assistant agent, and assistant agent creates the plan. And this assistant agent not only creates the plan, it can create plan, it can write code. I already showed you that. But after doing all these things, this assistant agent has to check whether the plan or the code that it has written is perfect. For that, it will use the agent pair 2. In order to get access to the agent pair 2, the assistant will use something called as function calling. The function calling is an inbuilt feature in OpenAI, where you can attach functions to the models, and it can call those functions. So what are these functions? These are all basic Python functions that you can define. So here I have defined a basic Python function, and this Python function called askPlanner has been linked with the agent pair 1. I'll be showing you in a couple of minutes. So once the assistant creates the output, creates the plan, creates the code, etc., it will immediately internally it will connect with this particular planner user planner pair using this particular function, and then it will ask the planner user. Planner user is the user proxy agent to initiate a chat with the planner, and in the planner the message will be the plan that is created by assistant. Here is one of the examples that I have tried based on this agent pairs. So there is agent pair 1 and agent pair 2. I have already coded all these things into this particular notebook. Let us begin. So this user proxy that you see here, this is a user proxy agent that is here in this location. This user proxy agent, I am sending the message, how will you plan to harness all the energy given by Earth's sun. So this is one of the very visionary idea that I have in my mind. So I am asking that to the user proxy agent, and this user proxy agent is going to connect with the assistant object. So this assistant object I already discussed in the beginning. It is created here. Let me scroll up. So here it is getting created, and this assistant object can generate code, can create the plan, and it can also come up with various kinds of updates. If there is any kind of error in the code, if there is any faults in the plan, it can update the plan, etc. However, it cannot execute the code. Keep that in mind. And it cannot analyze the code also. Once the plan is received, so you will see that UserProxy agent is send the message and the output starts happening like this. How will you plan to harness all the energy of the given earth sun? You will see in the output, you will see that there is a very detailed plan here, but this particular plan was not directly created by the assistant. In the backend, what had happened is the assistant had called the planner. To the planner, it has sent a very simple plan. This is a simple plan that it sent. You see, the plan that it sent is install solar panels, connect solar panels to the grid, use energy storage system, implement all these things. These are the simple things that it has sent. But after the planner looks at this plan, the planner creates all this detailed output. So how did I know this? If you scroll down, you will see that using AutoReply, this particular plan is sent by the planner user to the planner. Okay, now how did this happen? Where did the planner user come into picture? This particular function ask planner, as I already told you, is a Python function. If you scroll up, let me scroll up, let me be a little slower. If you scroll up, and there you will see that there is a function that I have declared, and it is called as ask planner. This ask planner is using planner user and initiating a chat. This planner user is a user proxy agent with the name planner user, and it is initiating a chat with the assistant agent with the name planner. So you can see the user proxy agent name planner user, and also you can see the assistant agent name planner. In order to communicate with these two agents, there is a function, and this function is coded into the assistant agent that we create here. So if you come here, you will see that we have created an assistant config, and inside that we have called functions, and in the functions we have called ask planner. And this ask planner has all the necessary details. As you scroll down, you will see that I have used that particular config, assistant config, in creating the assistant agent. You saw that using this kind of function calling, using the connectivity between the user proxy agent and the assistant agent, the messages are getting transferred between the Python objects. Keep one thing in mind: all these things that are happening between Python objects. All the objects in Python execution environment have methods. These methods are only making this kind of message passing possible. So here you see that it is giving the plan, and the planner user is getting all the reply, and here the user proxy agent is again replying to the assistant. So assistant, it is telling the response from the calling function ask planner. The user proxy agent has got the response from the ask planner, and it is looking at all the output, and then the assistant, it is telling to the user proxy that thank you for the suggestion, and here is the revised plan. So it comes up with a much more detailed plan, and finally it says terminate. And once this terminate message comes, then the user proxy agent will either terminate. In this case, it has been programmed to terminate, so it will stop the conversation, or if it has been programmed to ask for the human reply, then it will ask for the human reply. But here it has completed the task. This is how the entire process works, and it has completed the task. That is very important. It started here, it got the reply from the assistant, and from the assistant it jumped into this pair, agent pair 2, via this particular function, Python function, and then it's got the reply back, and it was sent back to the OpenAI large language model GPT-4, and then the user proxy agent terminated the conversation. All these things happens, and it happens in less than 15 to 30 seconds, depending on the internet connectivity. How well this particular configuration will work in real time, it depends on finally the instruction that you provide. As I already told you, that the assistant and the planner, these are basically the OpenAI endpoint completion. That's all. These are all not anything special that we think about. This is not even the assistant that the OpenAI has recently released. It's not the assistant. This is the OpenAI completion endpoint of GPT 3.5 model or GPT4. If you guys want to work with the assistant, OpenAI assistant, then there is a separate discussion on GPT assistant agent that I discussed in the earlier video. Take a look at that. Again, the assistant agent is not same as GPT assistant agent. So keep this in mind continuously. The planner is having this particular system message. You can read through the system message, take a moment, pause it, read through the message, because the message, the prompt itself is very important if you want to start coding and developing products with Autogen. It tells what the large language model can do and cannot do, and it also tells how the output is required and what it can do with the output. All these things are provided here. If you go back, if you go to the assistant, and if you look at its prompt, you will see that it is much more detailed, and it has got a lot of information about the kind of code that it can write, the kind of steps it can follow, and what it can do with the steps if it faces any kind of error. And if there are lots of other challenges like the code blocks getting overlapped, code blocks getting not generated properly, multiple code blocks in same response, all these things have been streamlined in this particular prompt design. This assistant and the planner, as I already told, is a regular OpenAI ChatGPT 3.5 or 4 model completion endpoints. Only thing is they have an additional attachment of function calling, which calls and connects with the another agent pair. This is one of the new things that has happened in this particular video that I want to make it very clear and very open to everybody. You can try this configuration with various kinds of tasks that you want to accomplish in order to get this particular output. So whatever you are seeing, in order to get this particular output, I had expended around 20 cents in my OpenAI API key, OpenAI API tokens. 20 cents. If you are going to use ChatGPT 4, it might be 50 or 60 cents, depending on how much time you do. But keep one thing in mind: when you are going to initiate the UserProxy agent, ensure that you reduce the consecutive auto reply to less than 5. Do not allow it to go more than that, or else it is going to take up a lot of tokens. It's not required. Initially, when you are trying to work the tasks, keep the auto reply to the bare minimum. Understand what is going on before you go ahead and spend your hard-earned money. Whenever you are trying something new, you have to ease in. You have to try something small, like I showed you, right? Just to recap, I showed you what happens in case of the UserProxy agent when there is human reply, and when there is no human reply, there is only one auto reply. All these things you can try it out and see what kind of output you get. Then only you will be more confident when you go ahead and do a very complex configuration like this. I have not even started delving into the retrieval user agent and the group chat that has been created, the teachable agent. I have not even touched those things. And even with this agents, there is so much to learn. In order to bring you a little more closer to the code, I am going to show you right now that where in the code you can find the auto reply option that is being done. So here, once you open the conversable agent.py script, if you scroll down, immediately you will see the conversable agent has a very interesting and detailed docstring. It talks about how to modify the auto reply, to override the generate reply method, This is the generate reply method that creates the auto reply. You can immediately find it out here. You can disable or enable human response by using these two options. You can modify the user input using the get input method, and you can modify the way to execute the code blocks, single code blocks or function call using the execute code blocks method, and all these methods. So there are 3 methods that you can use, and finally you can change the initial messages. As you can see, once you start reading the code, you will start getting more information than you can ever think of. Documentation is one thing, but once you start reading the code, you will have a very different level of power. We can only learn the surface of the library if you're going to work with the documentation. Only when you dive into the code of that particular library and see how the developers have thought, then only you will be able to come up with very interesting and innovative products. Let us dive into the code where we look into the generate reply. This is the Conversable Agent script, and if you scroll down, in case of VS Code, you can see all the methods here. So once you collapse this, you can see all the initial variables and then all the methods. You can see there are lots of methods. We are going to go to initiate chat. So this is one of the important method that you need to review, where the recipient, that is the Conversable Agent, the recipient and the message. So this context has the message. So if you scroll down, you'll see that the context will be inside this. The message needs to be provided if the generate init message method is not overridden. So this is how you know that you need to provide the message here. And then next is, once you initiate the chat, what happens is it prepares the chat, it sends the chat, and after it sends the chat, in the sending method, if you scroll down further, let us not scroll down there, let us scroll down here. If you see that there will be a send method. Here is the send method. In the send method, you will see there is a message that is getting used. There is a recipient again, and there is a request reply. So this request reply is going to ask for the reply from the OpenAI LLM, and then it is going to process it. Our main thing is the generate reply function. So if you go down a bit, just a second, generate OAI reply, this is the one. So this is the method that generates reply based on the conversation history and the sender. So this is the auto reply method, and here you can see here the explanation. You can see that by default the following functions are checked in the order. So it checks these functions. So if there is a termination or a human reply, it will not be able to, it will process it further, whether it is going to generate the reply using function call, whether it is going to generate reply using code execution or using OAI reply. All these 3 will be checked, and then accordingly the reply will be sent. You can see that, you can see the generate OAI reply here, generate code execution reply here. You can see the function call reply here. So if you go to generate OAI reply, you will see that this goes to client.create. So this is the OpenAI completion endpoint. So this is the completion endpoint where the replies are received from the OpenAI GPT3.5 or 4 model. So this is the OAI reply. If you go to code execution, I think it did not move. If you go to the function call, you will see that it is using the execute function method, and you can also go to the function call reply. So here is the function call reply. You can use the execute function. Sorry about that. Execute code is happening here. If you scroll down, the execute code is little more involved because it has to extract the code and then it has to execute the code. So all this execute code block is here. All these things, once you look into the code block, you will understand it in more detail. The point here again is that if you look at this overview, and you can see that once you look at this overview and keep it as a reference, then it becomes really easy if you get into trouble anywhere. I'm pretty sure that after you go through this kind of overview, the communication between the agents can be inside your mind. You can visualize it very easily. and you can debug your code at a rapid pace. I believe that through this discussion, you learned a lot about not just about how the agents are working and how they're interacting with each other, but you also learned how the logic is working in the backend. This particular notebook, again, let me go back here. This particular notebook also further discusses on what happens if you give a particular task which does not need a plan. So if you give such a task, then what will happen is it will not even call the planner. So after this particular step, if it knows the process, it will not even call the planner. You'll see that if you go through this, you will understand it will not call the planner at all. It will go through in this location itself. It will never jump to this agent pair, because the plan, if it doesn't need to be verified, then the agent, this assistant, will not call this planner. You can see that also. So that has been also shown here. I have not explained it, but you guys can take a look at it. Apart from that, if you scroll down, I have also shown the generate reply docstring as well as the generate reply parameters. So I have kept it here so that you guys can actually take a look if you are a little bit intimidated to look at the code. I am insisting on looking at the code because it has created a huge amount of change in how I look at the large language model, artificial intelligence technology, as well as how I use it in my regular work. So with that said, I believe that you guys have learned a thing or two from this discussion. Do leave a comment and do leave a like. It actually lets me know whether my content is useful and whether you guys need some update in the way I'm explaining. So I believe that I'm doing a good job. Do subscribe to my channel for further updates on more videos on Autogen. As I already told, Autogen has lots of different agents, and I've just started looking into the basics of assistant agent and UserProxy agent. With that said, I would like to leave with 4 words, that is practice, 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 practice. See you guys. Have a great time.